Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We're here at the 89th Eden Fractal meeting. I'm here with Tadas and Eric and Rosmari, and we're about to jump into discussions as we often do. Then I will share a little introductory presentation about Eden Fractal and where we're at, and then we'll get into the topics of the day. And if anyone wants to say hello or share anything first, then of course, feel free to do so. Thank you, everybody, for taking time out of your day to watch us here at Eden Fractal and be here with us. We're a community that creates great games and shows and tools that help create a more respectful world. We have a vision that all communities and organizations should have the tools and methods to make the best possible decision-making fair, fast, and fun. And you can learn more about us at edenfractal.com. You can join our weekly events where we play consensus games where people can help people optimize decision making and collaborate with great innovators. Everyone's welcome to join, and we produce videos each week too and build tools to help people cooperate and form consensus better. So edenfractal.com, everybody who's been watching for a while is probably pretty well familiar with t.me/edenfractal, which is our Telegram group as well. Rosary puts out some nice messages here to invite everyone to join. We meet every every Wednesday at 16 UTC, my mistake. And we recently released a bunch of videos too, which you can see at edenfractal.com/videos. We recently released a video about fractal missions and scoping growth. We talked about how Eden Fractal will help the world optimize decision making. And we playfully collaborate to define their scope, and we're refining our core value positions and working to create a clear mission as well as our strategy to create our vision in the world. So invite you all to join us on the top of the page. Actually, I've got to add it to my list here, but if you go to events here, then it'll open up lou.ma/edenfractal where you can find the events and invite friends and join us. We love to meet new people. So please do visit us. And then also in the Eden Fractal chat, Rosemary's been sharing all the most recent videos, even though they're not fully produced yet. So you can watch them there as well as on YouTube and on edenfractal.com/videos. And last week, what we discussed was in the 88th meeting, we discussed optimism and optimism fractal. So if we want, we can discuss a bit more about that. That was a really interesting discussion. And we also discussed more about our strategy about collaborating with communities and kind of discussed how we could potentially collaborate with optimism fractal as well as many other communities to help optimize decision making. The way that we play these games, or the way that we organize our meetings, is with a game that we call agendas, where people can vote with respect points they've earned in previous meetings on topics, and people can post proposals on an app called Consortium. And for this one, I just proposed a topic for an open discussion and figure we can decide what to discuss during the meeting. So that's basically where we're at. I don't think anybody else proposed it. If anybody else has anything that you want to discuss, then feel free to let us know. As some suggestions, previously we were talking a lot about our mission and our strategy. We have this in the Eden Fractal Community Notion site. So we have pages here that you can find in the Telegram chat where we were discussing the mission. Previously, we had, there was some mission proposals from each of us here that you could see on the screen now. And there's also some strategy where we're discussing things like what are the products and who are the consumers and what are the target markets and strategy and all sorts of stuff like that. So if we'd like, we can return to these, or if anybody else has anything on their mind, then feel free to let us know. If you want, we can play a game too, to play a respect game and rank each other's contribution discussion throughout the hour at the end. But I figured we could just kind of have a more open discussion for now and then pick what we want to do. So thank you for listening to the presentation, and we're ready to get started. Would anybody like to share any thoughts on their mind or have any topics you'd like to suggest that we focus on?
I'm just excited about getting our mission statement done, because then we can work on products. What is our actual product portfolio?
Sounds good. I like that idea, and it would feel nice to complete our mission. And we've discussed it a lot, but we've never actually created one, and we have several different or 4 different good proposals here. So happy to jump into that. Das, Rosmari, do you have any preference? Does discussion in the mission sound good to you, or do you have anything else in mind?
Yeah, I think it makes sense to come back to the mission.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. Well, maybe I'll pull it up on the screen then. And Rosmari, I haven't heard from you yet. So I think we have 3 out of 4 consensus for discussing the mission, but what's that?
Okay, for the mission.
You're good with the mission? Okay. Sounds good. So maybe I'll go ahead and share the screen again, unless anybody has anything that you wanted to share, but I can give a little recap for both ourselves and the audience, where we're at with our mission. So this is the page. Well, if you go back to the Eden Fractal Notion site, then there's all this is days based, and there's one for Eden Fractal missions. So as a little bit of a summary, I mentioned we discussed it a lot. So you can find some links here where we discussed the mission in, I guess, 4 meetings over the past few months, and you can see different pages for each of these: 78, 83, 84, and 85. And then you can see where we kind of like worked on our mission, had different proposals here. There's lots of different notes here that you can check out. And of course, you can watch the videos here. And there's also a website, Eden Creators Top Mission, where we discussed mission a long time ago, back in the 38th meeting, where you can find lots more details, or somewhere around there, 30th meeting. So it's been a big topic, and you can find it here on the website, and then also at some point we can formalize it. But the most recent progress where we're at right now with the mission is in the 85th meeting. So about 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, we discussed what is the mission of Eden Fractal, and we played a little game, or I don't know, we just had a discussion, basically discuss it. And so you can now see each person's proposed mission on the screen. Perhaps maybe if people would like to read out their missions, we can each take a turn, or if anybody had a new idea for the mission, I can go ahead. And the most recent one that I had was, our mission is to enhance decision-making throughout society by creating consensus games and promoting their adoption with practical research, development, education, and collaboration. And I know Eric and Rosmari and Tadas each had some similar ones, but also some pretty significant differences as well. So curious if anybody wants to take the floor and share thoughts about their mission and what they think it should be. If you'd like, I could also read out loud each person's mission, or if you want to read it, it might be helpful for the, I see Tadas is shaking his head, yes, that might be helpful for anybody listening along, just to have a better idea of everybody's mission. But I see, Eric, you're going to say something too, though.
Well, one way may be to start with the customer and work back and say, what do they need that's in these that we like to keep? So if we think of our customer for the example, how do we capture the fact that we reach out to them? I did that in mind by using collaborative in the word. So, what is our mission in charge of interacting with the customer from their point of view?
Good points, and that's why
that's just a question I have: is nobody knows us and they know us. Does that have something to do in our mission by how we reach out to them, or is what I put collaborative good, or is something that's in the other one? Do we want to capture that at all? You mentioned education, but that doesn't really talk about how we interact. Is it part of our mission to actively approach people in some way?
Yeah, I would say yes. I also have collaborating with communities part of my mission statement, I think. Well, for me, this is a key aspect that I think the governance workflows, the best governance workflows will be developed by collaborating with communities that actually need improvements. So I'm all for including in some way that aspect.
So does anybody else think it needs to be more than that or different from that? Tadas and I like collaborative. There's the way to mention we do that. Rosmari and Dan, what do you think?
Well, so I also like collaborative a lot too. And I had in mind by promoting their adoption with collaboration, basically promoting adoption of consensus games with collaboration. So it's not as specifically defined as collaborating with communities. And the reason why I had just end collaboration was because I think it's with communities, like intra communities, but it's also with organizations, and it's also inter communities, where it's like within communities too, like us collaborating, for example. So that's why I included collaboration, but I just had it not just with communities, but just more so collaboration in general. I'm open to having it with communities in particular, if you think that's a better idea. But that's the reason why, and I really agree that collaboration should be there. But to me, it seemed like it makes more sense if we just keep that more open with collaboration in general.
But the thing I don't like about how collaboration is in your mission then is that it's presented as means for adoption. While for me, collaboration with communities is also means for creating. It's how we create better decision-making workflows. Yeah, so in my mission, I also try to cover that as well. But that's how we create. That's how we find the best workflows.
So
Okay, cool. I like that.
Do we want to write in our new one, our combined one, just the words collaborating with communities? Is that an element we all agree on?
That works for me. I see Tadas shaking his head yes, I think. The only thing I'm curious about, though, is like, I suppose it goes back a little bit to the idea about like communities and organizations. I think to some extent they're both the same, because all organizations are communities to some extent, because they're all communicating. All communities are organizations because they're organizing in some way. But do we need, being that we put in into our vision that we have a vision where all communities and organizations have the tools and methods to make the best decision-making possible? Do we need to put collaborating with communities and organizations in that sense? Or can we just put communities in that sense?
I'm okay with either.
Yeah, me too. If we can avoid using additional words, either communities or organizations, I'm okay with avoiding those.
Okay, sounds good. I agree as well. And so I wrote, I have a little box here. This isn't, we can figure out better ways to organize it right now, but right now I just wrote kind of consensus box so that we can try out consensus. So it looks like 3 of us are okay and sound good with collaborating with communities. Curious, Rosmari, if that sounds good for you, or if you have any other thoughts about this. Or also, if anyone would like to read out their mission too, I was the only one who did that so far. So for anybody listening, it might be helpful if each person reads it out, but also not necessary too. But
Okay,
just curious to hear from everybody.
I'll read mine. Our mission is to develop and disseminate effective decision-making resource processes and tools across society through collaborative research, development, and implementation with communities, ensuring universally applicable consensus building workflows.
Thank you, Eric. Tadas, would you like to read yours out for the audience?
Yeah, I can read mine. Our mission is to create decision-making mechanisms that would be replicable at all levels of society by collaborating with communities to promote research, development, and testing and adoption of best consensus-building workflows and tools.
Okay, and my one is, our mission is to help communities and organizations reach consensus through decision-making mechanisms using research, tools, events, and educational materials.
Okay, very nice missions. Thank you all, and excited to find the best combination here, or synthesize the best mission. Rosmari, by the way, I'm curious if you had thoughts about collaborating with communities. That sound good with you? Or do you have any suggestions on that topic?
Yes, I think it depends on where in the mission we put it. Because I see how our missions, they get to the point, some get to the point sooner, others later. So it depends when in the mission it's mentioned, but I agree. For example, my one doesn't have collaborating in there.
Yeah, so I would add, collaborating to Rosemary's. On the other hand, something from Rosemary's for Tadas's, as she mentions, education. I think education and training is key. I even like events.
Yes, I think
But
events are.
we could just say that's part of education and training, but you know, maybe we don't need to be specific about it, but I don't mind being specific either. I think that could be good.
I think mine has a mistake. I want to change mine.
Okay, I'll show you the link in the Telegram again in case anybody doesn't know where it is. It is now in the live chat in the Eden Fractal Telegram. And so it sounds like, I was going to say, it sounds like Rosmari was cool with it collaborating with communities and just was curious about where to put it in the mission. And then there was also a suggestion about how Eric likes the what was it, research and education, maybe, and also maybe events. But Eric, you're going to say something there, though?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
And
Cool.
for some reason, I cannot edit that page then.
Okay, yeah, for some reason I'm trying to write in here too, and it's not letting me hit the enter key, which is strange. But I am able to edit it here. You're not able to edit anywhere?
Yeah, it's like I'm not logged in, even though if I click login, it logs me in, but it throws me to some other page of Eden creators, which and I
Okay,
don't
yeah.
know how to get back.
For some reason, I just checked the sharing permissions, and you didn't have permissions anymore. So somehow there was an accident, and you lost permissions on this page. So I just gave you permissions. So if you reload it, then you should be able to do it.
Okay, now now it works.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so while Tadas making that error, I still don't know why I can't write them. I'll try refreshing my page. But I'm curious what everybody thinks about, now it's working, about education and research and events. It seems like everybody had research in there, I think. Yeah, everybody had research in there, and education, I think everybody's in agreement about that. Although I'm not sure if everybody included it. So does anybody have any suggestions on the best way to form consensus? I mean, in previous weeks, we had had some time to prepare like our missions and our missions events. We took maybe 3 or 5 minutes to write our mission. And this week, because we have an open discussion, we didn't like prepare anything in advance. So I'm kind of looking at it, and I could just spend time just like thinking about it quietly, but I'm curious.
I kind of think we're pretty close. We're looking at each elements of them and saying, what do we like to keep and what's not important to us. I think that's a good discussion. So we've talked about the idea of collaboration. We've talked about research, development, and implementation. Those things we seem to be agree with. And then we have this idea of the training or education. Do we talk about specifically training or education, or do we use words like outreach? What do you guys think?
Well, I think that training education is good to include, because outreach might not, I mean, outreach is more so about like the reaching out and contacting people, but it's like, what are you going to do after you contact people? What are you going to do after you outreach them? And I think that the education and research is is also a quite important piece to mention there. And I think that, as I said, everybody had the word research in there. And I think maybe a couple people didn't have education. It'd be cool if we had like an AI tool that could like synthesize. Actually, we probably can. Maybe I can try adding this to ChatGPT and then seeing what ChatGPT comes up. That might be an interesting idea.
Put 4 of those in there and ask it to combine them, see what it says.
Okay, yeah, I'll try that out. I'm curious what it will say.
You can also try Gemini.
I don't know if I want to try Gemini. I don't know if I want to use Gemini for anything. I think I do not, actually.
I think they're
Why?
Well, I can answer that, but Eric, did you want to answer that, or in your thought, or?
No, I don't know. I've been playing ChatGPT against Gemini and Copilot, and of course, then I've been also experimenting with adding things into our own, like like having a Telegram draw pictures.
Okay, cool. Well, yeah, it is very powerful, and actually, Gemini might be helpful for this purpose. Obviously, it's a powerful AI tool, but the reason why I didn't want to use it is because, well, I don't know if you're checking Twitter or X this past week, but or keeping up with any news, but Gemini, it was really bad what they did. They had they released a new video way, like a new picture AI, and there's all sorts of really weird stuff there where like like people would I don't even want to get into it really, but like it would not generate people with white skin, for example, and it would like historical facts, like who's the Pope, or like who was the founding fathers of America. It would make like, I don't know, like an Asian woman or something like that, or all these different things, and just like distorting history basically. And then also there was stuff in text versions where people were asking things like really bizarre stuff, like who's worse for society, Hitler or Elon Musk? And it would say like, oh, it's tough to say basically. And so it seems like it's just been co-opted or something. I don't know, but I don't trust it very much basically.
Oh, I ask it questions like find research papers supporting the ideas that volunteer extensive, extrinsic and intrinsic motivation. That's the kind of questions I ask. It seems okay. Seems okay.
Yeah, it's a much better question to ask, I think. And I use ChatGPT for a lot of stuff, and I get a lot of really great results from it. But I haven't asked any of those things that I mentioned, but I just saw people on Twitter mentioning it, and I didn't like what I saw or heard basically from that.
But is it due to some bias, or is it just due that it's reading things and it says, oh, most of the world is not white? So I don't know.
From what I understand, there was a lot of like bias built in by the programmers, basically. But
is that a conspiracy theory, or is that truth?
From what I've seen, it seems like I've seen sufficient evidence that it is the truth. But maybe I'm wrong.
Just very careful for these days, because people say anything and treat it as a fact. Sorry, that's just my mindset, because working on my dissertation, I can't say anything without backing it up. So I don't just get to say like one friggin' sentence. That's open. I mean, I could state something as an opinion, but I can't say, I have to be careful to even use words like may or could, or, it's, so I find it weird watching politics and have people say whatever the heck they want with no background.
Well, nowadays you can just ask ChatGPT if about trustworthiness of itself.
Yeah, I want to ask now. I want to ask Gemini if it has bias built in.
Okay, well, that's a good question to ask. Maybe. Also, I did ask ChatGPT to summarize these, and it gave. First, I asked it to provide several different variations of it, and then it gave me 4 different variations, and then I asked it again just to provide, well, you can see here, I said, please combine these, and I gave the 4 ones, and then these are the options it gave. And then also I asked for just the single best mission statement, and I asked it to keep it short because all these look fairly long. And we can go into each one of these, but the mission that it said was the single best one was, our mission is to empower effective consensus building across society by developing, promoting, and implementing innovative decision-making tools and processes through collaborative research, education, and community engagement. And if you want to see the other versions, I don't know if I could maybe just zoom out so you can see all of them on the same screen. Maybe I'll put this one up top.
That's not bad. Although I have to tell you that I always, my marketing side will, kind of cringes whenever I see the word empower.
Okay.
Because what does that mean? It's just so open. It means lots of different things to different people. So if I said our mission is to empower fractal governance, it's like, okay, so what are you going to do?
Well, it says by developing, promoting, and implementing innovative decision-making tools and processes.
That's what mitigates it, so I can live with it. I'm just saying, whenever I see words like that, I'm like, well, just say what you mean. What do you mean empower? Make it better? What, use English. That's just...
Well, another thing you could potentially do is just remove, another thing you could potentially do is just make that shorter. If you did want to remove that part, our mission is to develop, promote, and implement innovative decision-making tools and processes through collaborative research, education, and community engagement. It doesn't have a part about effective consensus building, but it already includes innovative decision-making tools. So that's sort of a similar thing already.
If you like empower, I can live with it because it says, here's how we do that. But
okay, it reminds me too, I know Tadas was pretty strongly in favor of the phrase replicable at all levels of society in previous meetings. And I still feel like that might be too complex for people. Like, it's kind of difficult to say the word replicable. And so I'm curious, Tadas, if you still have a strong preference for that, if you want to work it in, or just in general, what everybody thinks about this. Because I mean, personally, I'd be happy to just settle on a mission, and we can always change it later if we want. But like, this seems pretty good. Obviously, we don't need to make a decision or rush into a decision, but it would be cool to have a mission and finally have something that we can always update later if we want.
The thought experiment that I always apply to this is, what if we brought in something new, somebody new that wasn't any part of our discussion, and we gave them that tool and say, do it? Would they start doing the kinds of things that we would want them to do? That's how I know if it's clear enough. If somebody sits there and go, that's why if I just said we empower that, we don't know what they would do, but it says develop tools. Would they start reaching out to developers? Would they reach out? It's kind of the minimum words which get people doing the kinds of things that we think would be done. That's kind of the metric I use. So develop, promote, implement, education, decision-making tools and processes through collaboration, research, education, community. I kind of like it.
I like it too, the shorter version.
And we already, in our vision, it goes along with our vision, which talks about, why we're doing this.
Mm-hmm. Looks like the DOS is deep in thought here. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I like it.
Which one do you like, Eric, the most? The one, this one here?
Yeah.
The short one? Okay.
Me too.
I mean, part of me gets excited, you know, with using the words innovate, decision, you know, that kind of stuff, but okay.
Gets excited using the word innovate? Are you saying you like the word innovative?
I like the word innovate in there, but do we need it? I don't know. Maybe it's extra.
Oh, so you were saying just implement decision-making tools and processes?
No, I just liked when I read the innovative collaboration, the fact is to innovate and promote. I mean, I kind of like the word innovate, but it's not important enough to me to say, oh, that's got to be in there.
It also has develop and implement. What's the difference between develop and implement?
Because step one is to get something. Step two is to get people to use that thing. It's a huge difference. Huge difference. In fact, that's why we usually have different teams do that. We have developers who code.
Yeah, I can see the difference between that. That makes sense.
Yeah, a lot of companies just focus on the development and they don't have a good implementation strategy and then stuff dies.
Okay. Well, so far it seems like Eric and Rosmari are quite in favor of this. I'm curious if there's anything else you think should be added or changed, Rosmari and Eric, and also haven't heard much from Tadas. Tadas looks pretty deep in thought, and I think it's generally good too. I still do like the fact of having games. So I think that most of our products will be games. I think if our mission doesn't have anything about games, then it might be a bit disconnected from the products that we're offering. So I would suggest maybe if we have like we use this, but then we just put decision-making tools, comma, methods, maybe methods instead of processes, because we use the word methods in the vision. Decision-making tools, methods, and games through collaborative research, education, and engagement. And one issue that I do have with this is that there's a lot of commas and there's like a lot of verbs, but then again, I suppose we want to be clear about what people will do when they join. And there's lots of different things that we are doing. So it makes sense to have commas with different verbs and perhaps commas with different products as well, basically, the tools and methods. And I'd suggest, that's basically my two suggestions. One is adding games in there. I'm okay with it if we don't, but I do think that might be kind of disconnected if we don't. And then two, it's a bit long and lengthy with a lot of commas, but I suppose it's also okay.
I think if we're approaching Alien Worlds, games is great, but if we're approaching commercial companies or nonprofit organizations, I don't know how that would play.
Yeah, and that goes back to what you're saying.
But I don't see any problem with us at the product level coming out with a game and promoting that. Hey, we've got a game that does that. But it's not just games, right?
Yeah,
I mean, we may come up with other things that may or may not be games, so it's not only games.
Yeah, so this is the version that
marketing perspective, from a philosophical, we view that work is play are the same thing. And so the idea of games and play, I think, is really good. But I'm not sure how good that works reaching out to people outside the, gaming. Like I said, in Alien Worlds, games and play paths work really well. But in Optimism, do they care about games? It's not mentioned anywhere in what they do.
Yeah, well, and that goes back to what you're saying about perhaps thinking about it kind of backwards, like we've been doing over the past few weeks, thinking about our strategy, who are our consumers, who are our target markets, and what we discussed last week with Optimism and the Optimism Collective. we've had a lot of success basically with games as the way that we're bringing our products to the community, and people really like it there. And we're working with limited resources, like our tools can be improved a lot, all these things can be improved a lot, but like the feedback that we received and the way that people speak about the respect game, it certainly clicks with people. It hasn't clicked with everybody in Optimism yet, so maybe there could be some better way to communicate it that other people in Optimism will like more, but from what I see, there's a very positive reception for the word games and thinking about it as games.
I would, for me, I would rather test that before adding in a bigger group. I'm not against the idea. I'm just used to a bunch of people sitting in a room going, this is a great idea, rolling it out and not having the impact that we thought. I've done that so many times that part of me says, just make sure that's what you want to do. If we're passionate about games and that's where we are and we do that, then maybe. But I'd be interested in what Tadas and Rosmari has to say.
Okay, and just on that note, you're very welcome to join the Optimism Fractal events if you like, Eric. We're planning to change the time to Thursday. It's a Monday at 17 UTC now. And it's not a huge group. Like we've had anywhere between 5 and 20 people joining. And for the respect game, it's been, I think a bit less than that, because we had a lot with the retro pitches, another kind of game that we played basically. But there's probably been about 40 people or more who have joined the events in total. And there's been a very high ratio of people who have really positive feedback and so forth. So as a place, we've been testing it for just about 5 months almost now, 4.5 months. And so that is a place we can look to see the reaction of people so far towards the concept of games to help with decision making and so forth. And also going back to our discussion yesterday too, or last week I should say, is, well, I think previously we discussed what is our mission scope, how long should it be for? And I think Eric had suggested it makes sense to have missions for about a year or so, and it could be more, it could be less, but it's not necessarily a long-term mission forever. And optimism to me seems like, I know Tadas was also mentioning a couple weeks ago too, that a strategy that sounds good is to work with optimism and similar Web3 communities, and then because there's funding there, there's developers there who can help build the tools, there's creators who are interested in helping to lead these kinds of initiatives and so forth. So to me, it seems like games is really better than tools or methods in a sense, because we have tested the concept of games in the community, which seems like the best market that's available for us right now. And I agree, in the longer term or whenever we're ready, maybe it can happen sooner. And there are opportunities for wider growth, but.
So my recommendation, my opinion now, is leave it out of the mission level and put it in the product level for now. Okay. I'm open to that, although I don't know. I mean, I haven't done so much scoping out of missions and products, so I identify disconnect.
Yeah,
but here's the other thing to think about. The mission is overall for everything, and then you have different versions of what you say to people. In other words, visions and messaging are different. The messaging should reflect your mission, but mission and messaging isn't exactly the same thing. So when you do messaging to people, you can make you tailor that message to every group. So if you're doing optimism, you could say games. In other words, if we're putting a mission on the website, that's for everything, unless you build a specific website targeting, which you can do, a specific group.
Good point. Another thing, by the way, I see Tadas has written lots. I'm very curious here what Tadas is brainstorming right now. But one thing I want to add too is some news is that I spoke with Joshua, who used to host the Fractal meetings last week. And Joshua has a big community that's doing quite well. It's a lot bigger than our communities. And he's interested in starting fractals and growing this community. And he was particularly interested in helping them with the respect game. So I still feel like maybe it's possible, and I'm sure it's possible. I'm open to it if everybody wants to leave games out, but I feel like that would probably be counterproductive when like our two biggest potential audiences are interested in games and they've said so. So it might confuse people if we say these are tools and processes, but our products are games. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well,
I really like games, but
a game is a tool with processes in it.
that's true. But going back to like having my curse of wisdom hat on, like I don't know if people will think about it like that, because you could say it's like that, and it is, but will people see it like that? If you offer somebody a game, but you say these are tools and processes, then will that, like cause some confusion, and maybe think that people might think that, oh well, I'm not so interested in tools and process. I'm interested in the respect game.
I think people should understand, like, we are developing better decision-making tools and work and processes by offering a set of games. For me, that's easy to understand, that a decision-making process could be presented as a game.
Okay, well, I'm happy.
And if you want to add decision-making games, tools, and processes, I'd be okay with that. But I wouldn't replace tools and processes with game apps. So that would be.
Well, yeah, we have tools and methods in the vision, and I like that. I mean, I would also,
because our vision talks about fun, right? That's one of our prime visions.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and so that was my suggestion, basically, that we have our mission is to develop, promote, and implement innovative decision-making tools, methods, and games through collaborative research, education, and community engagement. And on that point, too, I think that
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
I'm okay with that too.
Sounds good. Although I see Tadas is making suggestion 1 and so forth. Tadas has some other ideas.
Yeah,
Do you want to share what you're working on here?
Yes, so few things that's missing for me. So one is, for me, it seems very replicable at all levels of society. Seems quite important. Or we could rephrase that, like Eric used in his mission, universally applicable. For me, it points to the same thing. And another thing, we mention innovative decision-making tools, methods, and games. I mean, I'm kind of uncomfortable naming only that quality, because it's not just because it's innovative, does not mean it's good. So maybe add some word like effective or something, I don't know.
Well, we put that in our mission, in our vision, I think.
You mean with fun, fast, and fair?
And hey, we're making decision-making better. We're making it fast, fun. I mean, we're making decisions as best as possible, so that our vision kind of says we're all about good decision-making. And to do that, we make these innovative tools, methods, and games.
Yeah. I guess when you look from a perspective of vision, it's maybe not as needed. Okay, so I'm okay with not including effective.
Because I just imagine if we sent out a flyer, what we do, it's got vision, mission, and here's the product. Here's what you get from us right now. If you call us up, here's what we can give you. That's what goes into the products. And the other part is section is, oh, and here's the tools you can put in, here's what we're working on.
Yeah, okay. But regarding the universal applicability, I don't know, for me it's about simplicity. If we have one simple like set of games or processes that we know how to apply to different kinds of organizations, And if we find something that works for all organizations, I think that's really valuable. If it works at all scales, that's also very valuable. And for me, that's at the core of a fractal idea.
Yeah. Those are good points.
So
What does Rosmari think?
I agree that they're good points, but to me it's a detail that maybe can be explained later on, but I think it's a detail.
well, it's for me, it's a quite important design principle. Like, I don't know if we should force it into mission, but I think it's good to have these design principles on which we all agree on. And for me, this principle that we look for something simple and something that would be replicable at different scales. For me, that's an important principle that I'd like to follow.
What if we just added the word replicable? Would that be enough for you?
Yeah, that would be better than I think, definitely. And maybe it's a bit better than universally applicable, because I'm not sure what that means, universally applicable. That might be too much.
Okay.
And also, the reason why I would include it into mission is I think it's good to include in the mission how we stand out, how we are different. And for me, if we are doing fractals, I think this is quality by which we can stand out by doing something replicable.
Should we just call it fractal? Fractal decision-making tools, methods, and games?
But then this is that course of knowledge hat, right?
Yeah, I don't think people know what fractal is. I mean, take that from the governance trivia. People obviously didn't know what fractal really meant.
Well, do people know? And I think so. It seems like we're almost at consensus here. And I think I know before Eric. Well, no, Eric was saying he likes innovative, so I suppose we could add innovative and replicable or something like that. Also, I did just ask ChatGPT about what are other ways to say universally applicable or replicable throughout society, and then I asked furthermore what are synonyms for replicable or fractal. So I don't know if this is helpful at all, but these are potentially some different words we can use, because replicable, I mean, one issue with that is it's a little bit difficult to say. It's a bit of a tongue twister. And I don't know if it fully accomplishes what we're trying to say, like if people will be like inspired by replicable, because
I like
lots of things are
scalable.
replicable. Scalable?
Scalable is a bit different.
Yeah.
But self-replicating,
That's confusing. Self-replicating is confusing.
Yeah. Self-similar. Well, that's basically the fractal, but I don't know if it's clearer.
It is not to me.
To me as well.
I mean, do we want to just like popularize the word fractal though? I mean, it's in the name of Eden Fractal and all the different fractals we make. So, and fractals is beautiful. Like, people should learn about them. They're beautiful in nature, and they're everywhere around, and it really is a pretty core to the things that we're sharing, that we cooperate in a fractal sense. Like, this is coming from fractally. That's where it was originally inspired. I feel like fractal is easier to say than replicable, and it achieves what we're trying to do more. And maybe we should just double down on that and just educate people. If they don't know what fractal is, well, here's the explanation what fractal is.
Well, something to keep in mind is you have mission and then you have messaging. Your messaging can focus on games to a group, or fractal to a group. So I'm not against putting the word fractal in there, but just be aware that anytime you put something in that people don't know, that educating layer is a whole marketing layer. Like if we just use the word, like think of Nike, just do it. If we just wrote just do it, people would, before Nike, people would have just looked at us like, what are you talking about? And so they spent, you know, hundreds of millions or more dollars educating people on what just do it meant. So if we had a big marketing budget, I'd really say, sure, I agree, educate people about fractal. I'm okay with putting it in though. But I just caution that anytime you put a new concept and want to educating people on something that changes their thought process or behavior is really hard.
Well, for me, replicable is the clearest out of all of those. Although it does not, yeah, it does not fully cover what fractal would cover.
I don't like putting fractal in there. Because for us, fractal means different thing than what the definition is really. So when people hear fractal, they might think of the definition of fractal, which wouldn't be the same as what we use it in this scenario of emission.
I think we're using fractals because they're innovative.
Because they're what?
Innovative.
So that's why it's fractal.
Hopefully in the future, fractal won't be innovative. But for now, it is.
Yeah, but for me, there is a reason why they are called fractals. What we call fractals is they take inspiration from fractal structures.
Yeah, I agree.
So we are not, what people would get from word fractal is not far from what we mean.
I'm just saying, I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I'm just saying if we are going to take in the burden of educating, that has to be put into a big part of what we do. So under educate, it's already talking about, you know, we have to do that. That's a big job.
Yep.
But are we educating about decision making and saying, oh, by the way, we do this as fractal, or do we have to lead with fractal? In other words, do we lead with educate and include fractal in our education, or do we lead with fractal?
I think fractal is already mentioned in our name, like Eden Fractal, so I don't see the reason to mention it again.
Well, to me, by the way, we're only a minute till the top of the hour, so we can wrap it up now anytime. But I'll just also add to, real quick, I also asked ChatGPT, is fractal well understood and widely understood by most people? And it had, you know, it's relatively well known, but not known by everybody, kind of. But you can read it here if you want, and it explains more. And then I think fractal should be in there. And one of the reasons why I think so is I think it gets to the point that Tadas is sharing that, like, why are we doing, what sets it apart? And that's like a clear way, that's what's brought people together so far. There has been some like product market fit in terms of throughout the past couple of years we've been doing this, everybody has been calling it a fractal. And I think that might make it simplest for people. And then another thing to consider too is that we are doing marketing with fractals. Like we're marketing Eden Fractal, we're marketing optimism fractal. The optimistics are working in promoting the word fractal. I'm working in considering the idea for the Fractal Joy brand. So it's kind of like going with the wave, kind of, as opposed to going against the wave with a new word like replicable or something like that. So I'm open to doing a different way. We can also wrap it up here, or I'm happy to stick around for longer too if we want to keep on refining. There's no need to rush it, but
well, I would say go ahead and put that as our mission. We can talk about changing the mission next week. I'd say we all agree that that's a pretty darn good mission. Does it need to add now? We're just tweaking. So I think if anyone asks what we could say that right now, but we might want to add words that imply fractal or. I'm not against putting it in. I'm just saying, realize there's a cost to put it in.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing, of course, is that, you know, everything we do may not be. We may do some things that aren't fractal too in there too. I don't know. I think fractal may be the core, but I think you may find things that aren't fractal based.
That's true. And a lot of stuff we've done hasn't really been in fractal because we've been doing it in smaller groups, and it works well with smaller groups. It doesn't necessarily need to go into fractal at all, but it does still have that fractal potential as well. So that's something to consider. I'm happy with going ahead with this as Eric suggested, and I see Rosmari's giving thumbs up. I know Rosemary didn't like the idea of going with the word fractal, so I'm not attached to it too. I'm happy to change it around, but I'm happy to go with any of these. Basically, I wrote my suggestion here. I know Tadas wrote another suggestion below somewhere. I don't know if Tadas you want to share it, or if we want to just wrap it up here and then we can come to consensus next week, or should we extend this meeting a bit and try to figure something out before we wrap up? Or does anybody have any thoughts about the best way to proceed now? Or any other thoughts that you want to share about the mission?
I think we made huge progress. I'm happy to end here. Although one more note before I forget, I would actually maybe put develop after through. So through collaborative research, development, education, and community engagement. So remove develop from the beginning and add it after through. So basically, it's collaborative development that would produce something we promote and implement.
Okay, interesting. I'll try writing this over here. Also, I'm not sure if it seemed like Eric was okay with having games in there, but I don't know if I heard from Tadas and Rosmari about that too. So I have that in my version, but if y'all don't like games, then we don't want to include it here. I want to have it as a product and open to hear.
Yeah, I said I was fine with that.
Okay. Tadas and Rosmari, I'd be curious if you had a.
I said I'm okay with it, I think.
Oh, okay, cool. Thanks. Sorry, I missed that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Just kidding. Happy about games though. So I put collaborative development, research, education, and community engagement.
Maybe development after research.
Okay, that makes sense.
That's another version.
Well, that is the path you do it. Yeah, research, develop,
Yes.
educate, and engage. That fits.
And then the part of me that wants to just take like promote or implement and put over there too, just because like it might be simpler if we just have one verb in the beginning, promote or implement, and then we can.
No, I like that. I would like promote and implement.
Would it make sense to say our mission is to implement fractal decision-making tools and then put promote after, say, education though?
No, I like promote and implement right up front.
Okay.
Yeah, so these are all quite similar, but yeah, I think we should save all of these somewhere. And
okay, cool. I think the one that the one that I wrote and you wrote is a little bit different, I think.
yeah, I included fractal.
Oh yeah,
You included fractal as well.
You yourself innovative in there too. I don't know if we need innovative if we have fractal.
Right. Yeah, maybe we don't. And that's the only and you added games.
Oh yeah, games, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm okay with removing innovative, but
I like innovative. But to me, what does ChatGPT have to say about fractal decision making?
but you know, I
It
think
just reads strange to me.
Another thing that ChatGPT had originally was consensus building, which we don't have here. I think decision making is a pretty good alternative for that. But if we wanted to use the word consensus building, I'd be happy with that as well. And I'm just asking ChatGPT about what it means by fractal decision making now, and I'll paste that right below momentarily. And it does have a pretty good answer, a pretty interesting one. Okay, I'm pasting ChatGPT's answer about what is fractal decision making here. Anyone who wants to read it. I'll also ask for a shorter version too, because it gave a lot of details.
yeah, I don't know if it's decision-making tools that are really fractal. Maybe the organizational structure. What is fractal decision-making tools? And also, I don't know, previous version also had processes. I liked word processes better than methods. Anyway, we can do this forever. But I think it's better than what we started with today. So these are all nuances that we can work on. But I think any one of these would be better than what we started with today.
Yep, I agree. I think we made a lot of progress, and processes or methods, might be go either way on that. Method seems a bit shorter to me, and I like that was in the vision as well. But both work really. And then as far as the decision making, if they're fractal, I mean, I kind of maybe even prefer consensus building, because if you look at like the mission and vision right next to each other, it might be nice to have some difference in wording, and consensus is a really big part of what we're doing. And consensus building, like it kind of speaks more towards the process of not just making the decisions, or not just the decision making, but it's like the time that you spend building the consensus. And I don't know, I could probably explain that better, but I'd be interested in changing that decision making tools to consensus building tools. And I wonder if that would satisfy what you want. Also, we're 10 minutes past, so happy to wrap it up now if you'd like.
I think we should wrap it up. I will just leave some comments so that I don't forget.
Okay. Cool. Sounds good. Any last thoughts, Eric or Rosmari?
Thanks for the session.
Nope, I think it was good. I think we're close.
Okay. Sounds good. I agree. And yeah, feel free to leave any comments on this throughout the week. And excited. We're closer than ever to our mission statement, and we have some big ones. Special thanks to ChatGPT for helping to put this together as well and helping to guide it. And thanks so much Tadas asking, are tools fractal? It's a good question. We can discuss that if our tools are fractal or just the organizational structure as well as next week. Unless Tadas, you wanted to add anything more on here, then we could, but otherwise, we're over time. So thanks everybody for watching, and looking forward to next week's meeting and going forward with our mission, whatever we determine it is. Tadas, did you want to add anything on to there before we wrap it up? Or
yeah, so if we played the respect game right now, would we have to rank ChatGPT?
Yeah, that came to my mind. I was thinking of making a joke about ranking ChatGPT on the top. Not that Eric and you and Rosmari didn't all have great input, but ChatGPT kind of helped us out a lot from being able to merge ours together. So I did a lot of research to ChatGPT for this one.
It needs an EOS account. Tell it to create an EOS account when we will award it.
Okay, it sounds good. I can have a conversation with ChatGPT. I don't know if it knows how to do that yet, but give it give it 6 months, and it'll probably have like 1 million EOS accounts for some reason, and probably earn a lot of respect. That might happen. There might be AIs earning respect sometime soon.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks everybody for being here. Really excited about the mission, and we'll wrap it up and see you next week, Wednesday, 16 UTC. Hope you all enjoy. I hope to see you next time. And 3, 2, 1. Go Eden Fractal.
Eden Fractal.
All right. Thanks everybody, and see you later.
See you.